why I want to have white kids, because I want the white race to continue.
Well, it's racist because of historical and because of systemic racism that runs in white culture.
So, but what's racist about me wanting to have white kids?
Nick Fuentes calls out the hypocrisy of black people having black-only babies being okay, but if white people want to have white-only kids, they are racist for it. As Nick Fuentes takes on 6 black queens in this clip with Myron Gaines debating the question of whether to have interracial relationships or not. And Nick Fuentes, in this heated debate, stops these modern women for their double standards. Let's check it out.
We've been talking about race mixing.
Okay.
You know, that's sort of been...
That's the first time that word has been said.
Nobody
Well, on the show before you guys got here.
Okay.
And indirectly also, yeah. So I thought I'd ask the panel, and this is really prompted by Myron, because, you know, I respect everybody's opinions on this, but what does the panel think about race mixing? You all have black boyfriends, except for the Jewish boyfriend. Why don't we start with you? What do you think about race mixing? Do you think about this? That is a fair question.
So, I actually don't necessarily call it race mixing. I call it interracial dating. After that, I don't know the exact time frame, but I believe in the 1950s, that's when interracial marriage was legalized. Please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I can't put a correct date to it. But I don't think it's inherently bad. I don't think it's inherently something we should strive for. If it happens, it happens. I know there are certain people who their dating preferences are anti one specific race. I do not agree with that. But if someone comes from like a very Asian family and they're like, listen, for cultural reasons, for like getting along reasons, for integration reasons, it's going to be in my best interest to date another Asian person. I really do get that. But if someone is like, you know, an Asian person who says, I'll date anyone besides Hispanics, that's, you know, it's a little sticky.
I see. Why don't we just go around the panel? Can I say my position first?
Yes,
Is that all right?
Yes, okay.
I know. Yeah, you guys are probably curious. So here's my position. Okay, it's a little. Okay, you're going to be surprised about this, I think.
Me?
Yeah. So I've actually said on my show a lot. It's a little controversial in my community, but I'm actually attracted to women of all groups, of all races. Okay. See, I'm 21st century. Well, here's the controversy. But I would never date someone from outside my race.
I agree.
Okay.
But here's why. So I'm Catholic. You know, my body count 0. I want to have sex with my wife, just my wife. And I only want to have sex to have kids. And I want kids that are from the same group as me. I want white kids. So naturally, it follows if I want to have a wife and I want to have white kids, then I shouldn't date someone outside my race because I'm not going to marry them.
Correct.
So that's my position.
Yeah.
But we'll go around. What do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts on it in general? What about you? So I'm sorry. Someone had a
I was going to say, if that's the way you think, Baby Blue, then keep that in your vicinity, because, you know.
But he has a right to not.
I agree. Because dating outside my race makes me feel weird. I've done it just to make sure that, you know.
What was his race?
He a Nicaraguan. He still had color. You feel me? He was Hispanic. But at the same time, he still wasn't a black man. You get what I'm saying? So I agree with you. Okay. You get what I'm saying? Like, love y'all, but I ain't gonna date you, baby. You get what I'm saying? And I get that. Because I want black babies. So if I want black babies and I want the black race to continue, I'm going to, you know, lay down.
It's like he's trying to push his racial agenda. We're doing the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
because it was cute how his message had a racial undertone and yours didn't. You guys said the exact same thing.
No, the only reason why mine didn't have a racial undertone is because I'm black and he's white, and people like
not necessarily, because you called it interracial dating and he called it race mixing.
Yeah.
That is just.
Oh no, I was talking about his example. Like, he is a white guy who wants to date white women to have like white cultural standards, where my example was an Asian person dating an Asian person to have Asian cultural standards. It's the same exact thing, besides white and Asian, obviously. But coming from a black woman, I feel like, especially in the society where very democratic, very libertarian people are like supposed to be, quote unquote, the correct people, they would like accept me saying it before him just because it's me. Which
but again, it's about the undertone and how you guys said it. Like I said, you have the exact same message, but you called it race mixing.
It's the
and
same
she called it
interracial race mixing.
It was just the verbiage.
One at a time, ladies. One at a time, so they can actually hear you. Somebody had something over here.
I just feel like it was the same message, but different verbiage.
Yeah, and that's what makes it different. Like I'm okay. Like before we got on air, we were talking because somebody on my Instagram live asked me to ask him when he dated a black girl, and he said it with a smile. No, right. And I said, okay, I don't care because I wouldn't date a white man.
That's fine.
That's right.
And then he called me racist.
Well, I said that as a joke, though. I said that laughingly, in a friendly way. Well, but here's the thing: we are saying a different thing because you're saying culture, but I'm saying race.
Exactly.
And I think that, but here's the thing. I feel like if a white person talks about their race and the way the black people talk about theirs, they get called racist. But you said you want to have black babies because you want the black race to continue. That's why I want to have white kids, because I want the white race to continue.
Well, it's racist because of historical and because of systemic racism that runs in white culture.
So, but what's racist about me wanting to have white kids?
Yeah, folks, there's always the crux of their argument. Whites were here first. We took over. We built everything up. We're the big bad guys. So therefore, it's okay if everybody else does it. But it's racist if Nick Fuentes or anybody else like him wants to do it. Like, you can't be pro-white. You can't be pro-Christian. You can't be pro-Anglo-Saxon, whatever. They just try and demonize all that so much. But you can be pro-black, pro-Hispanic, pro-anything else except white. And it's perfectly fine. So having all that is okay, but if white people want to have just white kids, they're automatically demonized as being racist, not accepting. It's a double standard that's been in effect for the longest time now, and then everybody else gets to do it except we're racist if we do it. Let me know in the comments if you agree or not, if there's been that double standard in society for quite some time, and hit that like button if it really helps the algorithm. I appreciate it. Let's get back into it.
Nothing is racist about you, particularly because you're 24 years old. However, coming from a white, not white, Anglo background, and you know our country was built on the backs of slaves and or taking people's land and or acting like it's ours. It's always going to be there. So yeah, and the fact that white proud guys go, we're the superior race, so you can't act like that doesn't happen either. So just because you're sitting here going, oh well, I'm different, I like y'all, I'm just not gonna date y'all.
Both people didn't mention anything about superior. Even I did not mention anything about superior.
I didn't say that. I'm just talking about culturally and historically. Is what I'm saying.
She's saying
I'm not saying nobody said that.
Oh, so like societally now the air is different because
systemic racism is real.
His ancestors might have had like totally bad intentions.
They did.
I don't even think it's too far removed from him.
No, my ancestors have bad intentions.
In the sense,
I mean, you're a white man. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, but you don't. But you're making assumptions. I mean, what background am I? Do you know?
Right.
You said Italian beforehand.
He's Italian.
Yeah. So
the Italians supported Hitler, didn't they?
Well, not the Italians that came to America, but also I support Hitler, so it's really besides the point.
That's so.
But look, so you don't really understand, okay?
We are really good time now. Let's go. Sorry. Continue on.
I understand that someone can say something like, I support Hitler, and it's like, okay, well, maybe you can support one isolated thing that he did rather than like the tragedy that he was known for. And it's like a tongue-in-cheek thing to say. I mean, as someone who is dating a Jewish man, like I cannot just like sit here and get into an argument over that with you. Like we would be here all day.
That's true. Well, and I don't support just part of it. I support most of it. I'll just put that out there. But
why?
That's besides the point.
I don't know why.
Murdering
why?
people?
Because, well, first of all, I don't think that actually happened. That's first. But second of all, I think the whole history of World War II is basically a lie, in my opinion.
It was genocide first.
It's also factual.
Can you explain that?
So
One at a time here.
Okay, we'd be happy to facilitate this debate. We'll allow it to happen. But just let Nick give his position, and then you guys can articulate your response back. But before we do that, did you want to answer the systemic thing?
Yeah, the Hitler thing to me is a diversion, but the systemic racism thing, that's really the critical thing.
Right.
See, I look at it kind of differently. You say that white people came and took the land, and we built it off of blacks and everything. The thing is, though, where were blacks working or where were they slaves in America? They were slaves in the South, and they were doing agricultural work. And so as a consequence, they didn't really...
Are we calling it work? Or were they forced? Were they happy to be there?
Forced labor is still labor, right?
That's
It's
forced
forced.
labor.
So I mean, but the point is, it's agricultural labor, and America's not built on cotton necessarily. It's built on buildings and railroads and things like that.
That the majority of African American people
We're
actually
picking and doing.
help facilitate and make.
But the point is that blacks picking cotton doesn't mean that they built America. Moreover, all of the wealth that they created in the South was destroyed by the Civil War. Civil War destroyed the entire South. And by the end of it, there was almost nothing left. They were occupied by the North for a generation. So, the notion that blacks built America, whites built America.
So you're saying that, black people just had to sit down and do the dirty work.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they were brought
White
here.
people.
They were told to do the work. And they did agricultural work. But to say, blacks built America, they were always a fraction of the population. They were never.
Well,
more
what
than
I said
10%.
is that the America was built on the backs of slaves, is what I said. And then also the other part of that is shoot.
Well, going back to
We
the
said about the
systemic
land?
racism real quick, because you had said that you want black babies and everything else like that. And then he said he wants white babies. And then you said, well, back in the day, there's a part of systemic racism. That's what makes it racist. But my argument would be, if you look at someone like a Malcolm X or a Martin Luther King, et cetera, they all push for, black families to stay together, support black businesses. How's that different from what he was saying? Because they were also around during the civil rights era.
No, I didn't say him wanting to date within his race is racist. I didn't equate that to systemic racism. I was talking about his verbiage. The fact that he called it mixed and the fact that it's blacks and the fact that it's like, yeah, I like y'all, but I'm cool.
Right.
That's where the systemic racism comes from.
That's also
And I'm okay with that. Like I want to have a black family. I don't mind that. Like, I'm okay with that. I would never date seriously outside of my race. I wouldn't.
But would it be fair to say that systemic racism can be played on both parts? Because on the black community, they also were saying, hey, back then, same thing with the racist whites. There were also blacks that were racist back towards them. Like, hey, we're going to keep black culture
But
here.
black people being
Because it started
racist
that way.
that was a response.
Yeah.
That was the response that was met with racism. That was them standing up for themselves. That was them regaining their lives and their cultures and their identities. That's what they had
But
to
isn't
do.
racism, regardless of whether it's in retaliation or not?
fair point.
Yeah, I mean, Myron Gaines is exactly right here. You can't have it both ways. If you want to be pro-black, and hey, look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that is still technically a form of racism, whether you believe it or not, some form of degree. But I'm not hating anybody or that. But it's really always a double standard. If someone like Nick Fuentes, he wants to have white-only kids anymore, it's the left has to attack him for being racist, to propagate, white supremacy or whites are evil, whatever they want to throw there, showcasing their own racism because they're just projecting it at Nick Fuentes. It's just ridiculous. And I'm not against it. If you want to have pro-white, pro-black kids, whatever it is, you just want kids to look like you, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a pretty normal thing. And no one should be ashamed of that. And either way, if you want to have kids who look like you or not, that's your business and your choice. You should be left to it. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought about Nick Fuentes had to say, calling out the racist double standards on the Fresh and Fit podcast and Myron Gaines, and whether or not you would date someone outside of your own race. Let me know what you think about Nick Fuentes going on this podcast, completely demolishing them. I'll see you in the next one.